Airblue Flight 202 was a domestic passenger flight. It flew within Pakistan. The aircraft was an Airbus A321-231. This is a modern twin-engine jet. It was relatively new at the time. The flight was scheduled to travel from Karachi. Karachi is a large city in the south. Its destination was Islamabad, the nation's capital. Many people make this journey every day. This day, however, would end in tragedy. It remains a dark day in Pakistan's aviation history. The date was July 28, 2010. It was a Wednesday morning. The flight departed from Jinnah International Airport in Karachi. The departure was slightly delayed. It took off at approximately 7:41 local time. On board were 146 passengers. There were also 6 crew members. This included the captain and the first officer. Everyone expected a routine flight. They looked forward to arriving safely in Islamabad. The journey usually takes about 2 hours. The aircraft, registered AP-BJB, was in good condition. It had no known mechanical faults before departure. The passengers settled in for the flight. Some were traveling for business, others were visiting family or friends. The cabin crew prepared for their duties. They ensured passengers were comfortable and secure. The pilots in the cockpit began their work. They navigated the aircraft northwards. The initial part of the journey seemed normal. No one suspected the danger that lay ahead. As the plane climbed, the world below grew smaller. The crew followed standard departure procedures. The weather in Karachi was clear, but reports from Islamabad were different. Monsoon season was active in northern Pakistan. This often brings heavy rain and low clouds. Pilots are trained for such conditions. However, the weather near Islamabad would prove exceptionally challenging. The air traffic controllers were monitoring the situation closely. The flight continued on its path, unaware of the precise peril. As Flight 202 neared Islamabad, the weather worsened significantly. Monsoon rains were lashing the area. Thick clouds covered the Margalla Hills. These hills surround the city to the north. Visibility was extremely poor. This made a visual approach to the runway very difficult. Air traffic control at Benazir Bhutto International Airport was busy. They were guiding several aircraft in these tricky conditions. The challenge for pilots was immense. They relied heavily on their instruments. ATC initially cleared Flight 202 to land. They instructed the crew to use runway 30. This was the standard approach from the southeast. However, due to the bad weather and other traffic, ATC later asked them to circle. They were told to use an alternative approach. This was for runway 12 approaching from the northwest. This change required careful navigation. The pilots had to fly a specific pattern. It involved turning left and flying parallel to the Margalla Hills. During this maneuvering, communication issues arose. The pilots seemed confused by some ATC instructions. There were also moments of non-standard communication from the cockpit. The aircraft began to deviate from the assigned flight path. Instead of staying clear of the hills, it flew towards them. The pilots were trying to find the runway. They descended a little too early. This decision was critical given the low cloud base. The terrain was hidden from their view. The aircraft was equipped with advanced warning systems. The enhanced ground proximity warning system activated. It repeatedly gave urgent alerts. Terrain ahead, the system announced. Then terrain ahead, pull up. These are critical warnings. They tell pilots to climb immediately to avoid impact. Tragically, these warnings were not heeded correctly. The captain seemed to disregard them. The aircraft continued its path towards the unseen mountains. The final moments were filled with automated alarms. The aircraft, flying too low and off course, headed directly into the Margalla Hills. These are steep, rugged hills. They are a popular recreational area for Islamabad residents. On that fateful morning, they became a scene of disaster. At approximately 9:41 local time, Airblue Flight 202 crashed. It impacted the hillside near the village of Kala Gujran. The impact was devastating. The aircraft disintegrated over a wide area. A fierce fire broke out. Rescue efforts began almost immediately. However, the crash site was difficult to reach. It was located on a steep forested slope. Heavy rain and poor visibility hampered the rescuers. Army aviation helicopters struggled to access the area. It soon became tragically clear. There were no survivors among the 152 people on board. All 146 passengers and 6 crew members perished. This made it the deadliest air crash in Pakistan's history at the time. The nation mourned this terrible loss of life. An extensive investigation was launched by Pakistan's Civil Aviation Authority. They were assisted by international experts. This included teams from Airbus and from France's BEA. The flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder were recovered. These black boxes are crucial. They provide vital information about the flight's final moments. The data they contained helped investigators piece together the sequence of events. The wreckage was also carefully examined for clues. The final investigation report was released later. It concluded that the crash was a controlled flight into terrain. This means the aircraft was under the control of the pilots. There was no major mechanical failure. The pilots, due to a series of errors, inadvertently flew a perfectly functioning aircraft into the ground. The report highlighted issues with the captain's actions. It also pointed to failures in crew coordination. The plane was simply in the wrong place at the wrong altitude. The investigation highlighted significant pilot error. The captain, Pervez Iqbal Chaudhry, made several critical mistakes. He did not adhere to standard operating procedures. He ignored ATC instructions and automated warnings. His decision to descend prematurely in poor visibility was fatal. The report noted his overconfident and sometimes unconventional flying style. This style was not suitable for the challenging conditions. He seemed determined to land despite the risks. His actions directly led to the controlled flight into terrain. Poor crew resource management was a major contributing factor. CRM is about how the flight crew work together. It involves communication, decision-making, and leadership. In this tragic case, CRM broke down completely. The first officer, Muntajib Ahmed, was much younger. He had far less experience than the captain. The captain was 61 years old with over 25,000 flight hours. The first officer was 34 with around 1,800 hours. This large gap was significant. This age and experience disparity likely created a very steep authority gradient in the cockpit. The first officer may have felt unable to challenge the captain's decisions, even when the captain made clear errors. The cockpit voice recorder suggested the first officer was trying to warn the captain, but his warnings were not assertive enough, or they were dismissed by the captain. Effective CRM requires open communication. It needs co-pilots to feel empowered to speak up. This did not happen effectively on Flight 202. The crash of Airblue Flight 202 taught hard lessons. It reinforced the importance of strict adherence to procedures. It highlighted the critical need for effective CRM training. Airlines worldwide reviewed their training programs. The focus was on empowering first officers. It also stressed managing challenging weather conditions. A memorial was built in Islamabad. It stands near the Daman Eco viewpoint. It lists the names of all 152 victims. It serves as a solemn reminder of the tragedy in the hills.